Hi, everybody. It's been quite a long time since we've presented a video like this in this format, but I want to welcome Francis Letourneau, President and CEO of New RAN Wireless, and Jim Bailey, CFO at New RAN Wireless, both coming to you from Quebec City, where Jim is actually visiting for the week. Hi, guys. How you doing?
You're doing great. You?
Thank good.
Excellent. Beautiful fall day. So this is Frank Candido. I'm coming to you from Montreal. Today is November 2nd, and it's approximately 12:30 in the afternoon. So Francis, I think what we're trying to do here today is we want to present, you and Jim at least want to present current data from current site economics and how we take that data, extrapolate from that data, and present what the economics can look like going forward as we build sites. Is that correct? Is that the objective of today's exercise?
Absolutely. We have, I think, disseminated back in July a corporate update that included financial outlook for 2024, 2025. And since then, we've been working a lot to accumulate data. And today, we're presenting how the current data allow you to push yourself in the future and see what the current revenue are going to be and EBITDA and so on and so forth. So this is what we will be going through, and not only based on pink glasses type projection, but really on the current data.
Right. So this data is fresh as of October 31st. Is that correct?
Voila.
Perfect. Okay, so why don't we get started then? So I'll leave the floor to you or Jim. I'm not sure who will start, but go ahead. Let's get right into it.
Most of the talking will be done by the numbers guy, so Jim is going to do it, but let me just perform the first few slides, starting with the this financial outlook that we provided back in July, which is subject to DFI loans. The company is providing the following guidance for 2024, 2025. With expected number of tower for 2024 and 2025 of 1,500 and 2,500, leading towards a 20 million US revenue for 2024, growing to 50 million in 2025, with expected EBITDA of 6 million for 2024 and 25 million in 2025. So that was based on our financial model. And as I said, since then, we've been accumulating data and provided the team has provided all stats, usage, everything. So we are now able to present you the result of the work that has been done in the last couple of weeks. So from a context perspective, the data that will be presented today is the stats that are coming from Cameroon case. In Cameroon, we currently have 79 sites on air, total investment approximately as of today of 2.8 million. Monthly traffic now is close to 300K Erlangs per day. Erlang is eclectic type data metric, but it's defining the traffic of a 2G network. And 300 for a rural site is extremely high. I was discussing with some company in Madagascar today, and they were extremely impressed with the level of traffic that we are generating there. We're currently covering 454,000 people in Cameroon, and Jim will also touch a word on the accepted sites, because if you see discrepancy in our financial numbers related to revenue versus the total number of sites deployed, the acceptance period with Orange is kind of complex. So Jim is going to touch a word on this thing. But out of this, we were at 52 up to September. We're now increasing it by 15% in October. Just to give you an example, the best performing site in terms of gross revenue is generating $4,132. To reach the first batch of 122 sites, we still have 39 sites still in inventory, sorry. And the investment to complete that build is around $275,000. That will
Can you
come from,
explain? Can you
yep.
explain what that means? 39 sites still in inventory. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so in our warehouse in Cameroon, we have tower, power, radio, satellite equipment, so everything ready to go to load it on the back of a truck to go and install. The 279 and $75,000 it will be the service side to bring this equipment to site, build it, test it, validate, and come back. And to finance this piece, as stated in a report that I did on Agoracom, we have received a term sheet for a credit facility from a local commercial bank. And the gross contribution, and Jim will explain what the gross contribution is, it stands at 35% now in Cameroon, and it's the cash generated from operation that could be reused to build sites. So we will go through those numbers in the next couple of seconds. So that was the Cameroon context. Rapidly, you can see the curve of growth of the traffic and then the revenue. The orange one is the revenue since July 2022. This has been the fluctuation of the site has been impacted by multiple events. And you see also the trend in terms of traffic, and you see that the curve of the revenue and the traffic have been extremely tight together until a certain threshold, which was August. And as of August, the regulator has imposed a reduction of the promotion done by the mobile network operators in Cameroon, which had an impact on the tariffs. So as a result, the traffic went down, but the revenue went up to create a 25% gap between the two. And what we do see now, this is the stat as of September, the one for October were not available, but as of October, we grow this by 15%, and Jim will show it to you. But you see that's for the last months, the growth has always been constantly growing.
So how can site traffic go down but revenue go up? It's not clear to me how that works.
The tariffs per minute, Frank. So the mobile network operator in this part of the world sell prepaid promotional package. And the regulator has said your promotional package is way too high, is too much discounted.
Savings.
So we would like you to reduce those discounts by 50%. And as a ricochet, the tariffs went up. And because the tariffs went up, even if the traffic is down, then the revenues are higher. It's really the tariff went up more than the traffic went down. So that's why the revenue keeps growing.
And how does that impact profitability?
For the past couple of months, or I would say years, we've been talking about ARPU versus penetration rate. Remember, Frank, we tapped onto those numbers. But what we do see now is we really base all our metrics and analysis based on the current revenue generated. ARPU is now growing, as you can see, because since the traffic grows, ARPU are therefore growing, is therefore growing. But in terms of penetration rate, it's also growing. But bottom line, right now, we were talking about the 25% penetration rate and an ARPU of approximately $2. One is higher than the other, but bottom line, we're now focusing on what the revenue is really generating because we have data to analyze instead of only doing projection based on the data that has been provided by Orange.
But just to build on that a little bit, Frank, the tariff profile and traffic versus revenue is similar to what we saw prior to July 2022. It's what we were seeing when we first launched some of these sites. And then Orange implemented this promotional campaign, which Francis talked about, which was all about building subscribership and those kind of things by lowering their prices. People used the phone more, and we actually had a lot more traffic on our sites. And what that actually did, that does cause congestion, things like that, which can add to the cost because you have to upgrade the sites and so on and so forth. So what you have happening, and you can see the, revenues might fall, but our costs are going up. Now, because the Orange has gone off of these promotional campaigns and imposed by the regulator. So if this is, for those that are economic buffs, this is price elasticity at work. It's saying how much will traffic go down when prices increase and vice versa. And what we actually see is that prices have gone up, traffic gone down, but revenue and spending has actually gone up more as a result. And so this for us is great from a profit story. I mean, all of this income though, and we'll come on to the cost profile, but essentially because we don't pay to deliver traffic, to deliver minutes of traffic, we pay some fixed costs and variable costs, which I'll go into, but this all goes to our profit, to our bottom line and our contribution from the sites.
Thank you, Jim. So following on to that one, just wanted to give you a bit of what we have done in the past couple of months to increase that average traffic per site and increase our KPIs and make sure that they are on top of the expected KPIs of Orange. So tactic one was, of course, continuous improvement, where we did some interference fixes, where our cell edge was impacted by the interference caused by other frequencies. So that has been fixed. Channel signaling improvement, capacity upgrade, and we did a lot of the power management mechanics to sustain the availability of service. In fact, that our sites are powered by solar, and you have to know that Cameroon has a 5 to 6 months raining season that starts usually in May, June, and just now, November. And typically in those conditions with solar energy, it goes down. But since we are managing it properly and we have a mechanism that allow us to maintain the service, see at the bottom here, we remain above 90%. So it's usually 94.83% that we are reaching as of today. The tariff adjustment that we just talked about, that ART imposed a reduction of the promotion to the MNO back in August. So this is here. So you saw the traffic going down, but in fact, the revenue went up. The core network element upgrade, this is a massive improvement that we've done back in end of March, beginning of April, and look at the growth of traffic. In fact, the problem was that our base station controller, so the core element, was completely congested. So we have swapped the operating system, and the new one has improved significantly its capacity of taking traffic. And we've done a second round of architecture improvement, which is switching the routers and switches in the network that had less, I would say, signal processing power capacity, now moved to a bigger routers and switches. And this is how we have been able to increase the traffic in this network. And now, Jim, back to you for the site economics, and I'll follow the slide behind you.
Okay. All right. So what we're showing here is on a per site basis, what the economics will look like going forward. So the graph on the right, if you look at it, the blue line is the revenue. Again, this is per site, and the orange line is costs per site. And what we're showing is the average of both of those as we increase the build. So the top line revenue, it's the numbers that Francis showed earlier. The one difference I should say, Francis was showing the gross revenue per site, and this is the net revenue to Neuran after we take out the M&O charges, and we implement our revenue share. So it's slightly lower, but it's very close. So in September, it was about $1,200. Gross was about $1,400. In October, we saw an increase again in revenue, okay, of about 15%, which has taken us to just under $1,400 per site. Now, what we've done as a projection going forward is we just kept that flat. I mean, we do see it going forward, but this projection is just taking you out until the middle of next year. But for planning purposes, we've just said, okay, what happens if the traffic per site or revenue per site stays flat? The most dramatic impact is on the costs, and you'll see that curve on the right. And the reason for that, and I'll get into it in a bit more detail, but it's because we have a number of fixed costs. Okay, so there are some variable, and those are we pay for lease of sites, we pay insurance on the sites, and we pay repair and maintenance on sites. So obviously, as we increase the number of sites, those costs go up. The costs that stay fixed, and this is important, one is our VSAT, so that's our satellite carriage costs, and the other is office overheads. Now, office overheads aren't strictly fixed. I mean, they will increase as we increase the volume, but we'll show you what's going on with VSAT, and it's because of the way the contracts are structured, that there's a large fixed cost and fixed component. And so we pay a fixed capacity charge to our VSAT supplier. And this will take us up to fully 242 sites, the capacity that we have now. So we're seeing the impact of that as we increase the build, a much greater contribution per site. And this is what we kind of want to get across to people. We've talked about going to EBITDA positive as a group. Our countries, Cameroon, from a what we call contribution basis, is generating cash. So its revenues are higher than its costs. And there's a bit of a dynamic which goes on sites accepted versus built, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. But you see this gross contribution number, as I said, that is increasing. What is that cash? That's cash that we can use to continue to build in Cameroon. It's cash that we can upstream to Canada. Okay, so when we talk about EBITDA, we talk at group EBITDA level, but this is free cash that once the build is paid for, it will come back to Canada, and it will cover the financing costs. So we're doing that now because we are generating cash, but you can see once we get to our target of 242 sites by the middle of next year, we'll be generating $246,000 US per month. So that's almost 3 million a year just from Cameroon, just from 242 sites. So let's go let's go to the next slide, Francis. So this shows a little bit of the things at play here. As Francis mentioned, we currently have 79 sites built. I used the September number, which was 52 accepted. We're now at 59 by the end of October, but I was using a sort of quarterly view. So we had 52 sites accepted in September. What's important is that we were paying the costs of those 79 sites. Now, this is a discussion we have with Orange. It's part of our M&O contracts, and what Orange wants to see is the revenue from those sites getting up above into the levels that we're seeing on the accepted sites, and those are. And so we've had 7 more accepted now. We expect to have all of our sites accepted around March next year. So I'm showing all sites accepted by March. And what happens at that point in time, you can see how the costs behave. I'll show these in aggregate in a minute, but you can see that so lease costs, insurance, they basically stabilize around $40 a month, and that's roughly what we're paying per site per month. Repair and maintenance is about double that. It's about 80. The reason that it's higher in the September and December figures is because we are maintaining 79 sites, but only collecting money on 52. But as we get further out, we'll see it stabilize around the 80. The most dramatic improvement is again in the VSAT. Currently, it's $372 we pay per month per site. But because that capacity that we have is sufficient for the full 242 sites, we'll be down to 80. And overheads, like I said, we have them increasing a little bit, but it goes down to $127 a month. So our contribution per site is about $1,000 for the 242 sites, and that's that 246,000 that I talked about earlier. But we wanted to really get this shown. I mean, one, it's important for us to know. Second, it's very important we're sharing all of these statistics with investors. This is a very compelling story. And third, this is real data. You know, we had this in our model, but this is real data. This is really what we're seeing. And so it's, to us, and by the way, Francis talked about local funding. We've got a bank lined up that's ready to provide funding to help us to complete that build. There's not much cost left to get to the 242 sites. So if we go to the next slide, it shows the picture in sort of in aggregate. Okay, this is what the total view is looking like, and you can see on the various lines. So our VSAT cost per month is about 19,000. That is going to stay flat until we have 242 sites. It's a function of the fixed cost of building the infrastructure, putting the hub in place, and getting all of those things set up. But it means that we have great economies from building. We had hoped to build quicker, as everybody knows, but now that we're seeing these kind of numbers, now that we do have access to this finance, we're going to complete those sites that are in inventory, and we're going to get up to the 242.
So you're projecting this outward now, is that correct?
This is outward, yes. Sorry, actually.
Right. Okay. So there's a typo there. Then I guess you meant March 24 and June 24. Is that?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
I figured. Okay. Well, whatever. At least we've clarified that. Okay.
Yeah.
But the September numbers are the accurate numbers. Is that correct?
September numbers.
That's exactly what you're seeing. Right. Right. Okay.
Exact numbers. So the total of all of those, that column is the total revenue generated. And of that, the 13,000 is the contribution, which goes to pay for build, pay for upstream to Canada, those kinds of things.
And the December 23, to be clear, given that we're now November, does that include more sites being built between now and the end of the year?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Or more sites going live, I should say.
More sites being accepted and more sites being built.
Okay.
Okay. So we recently went from 71 to 79 sites built, and we've gone from 52 to 59 accepted. So it'll be both things going on, but we're pushing on the accepted, and then by March, we expect to have everything accepted that's built, and I think my number in March was about 179 sites. Okay, so we've got 79. Plus the 39 in inventory. It'll cost us 250 grand or so to build. We're going to be at 118 sites. And that's what we're projecting by the end of the year. So because, you know, the office overheads and the VSAT is staying flat, the other incremental costs are going up, the variable costs are going up, but you see that our contribution goes to 67 a month. And then by the time we're at, as you say, in June 2024, we're generating about 3 million of contribution, and that's on 242 sites. So if we take that, I did the numbers. If we take that on the full 4,600 sites, that number goes up by about 19 times. Okay, and what we've said to get to 10,000 sites, that number multiplies by 40, and we're talking 120 million. Of contribution in that case. So these are the compelling sort of site economics. And as some of our board members have said who finance these things, if we can prove the site economics, which we have, then what's the answer? It's just build more and do more. And this is the type of story that's really resonating with the investors that we're talking to.
Let me just ask one question then. So these numbers are based on actual performance in Cameroon. How would performance be impacted, you know, when country to country? Could you expect the same type of performance in Cameroon as you would in Madagascar, as you would in DRC, as you would anywhere? Is that realistic, or do you think there would be some fluctuation there?
Each country is a little bit different. mainly from the point of view of revenue. Okay. But what does that mean? In DRC, what we see is much greater populations per site. So more people and more subscribers. And therefore, eventually we see more revenue per site. But site lease is pretty much the same. It's a little bit higher in the DRC than Cameroon at the moment. Site insurance is the same. VSAT is the same. Okay, but it's about that volume, getting to that volume, and overheads costs in DRC are a little bit higher too. But when I say a little bit, not by much. So maybe 5-10%. But you'll still see these kinds of contributions, and you know that's why we showed it on a per site basis, because each site generates that positive contribution. In places like Ivory Coast, what you see are higher spend on a monthly basis by per customer. So you don't need to cover as big an area. You don't have to spend as much on the site, and you're getting this higher revenue too. But you know, our costs range. A site might be 25,000 for a small one, and then 30-35 for a bigger one. So again, when you think of a 10-year contract, those increments in the capex aren't that great. It's really this variable cost that we want to that we wanted to emphasize and show that once that infrastructure investment is made, and you know, we saw this in Cameroon as soon as we turned on a site. If people have a phone, they've prepaid for the use of that phone. It connects, and you're generating revenue instantaneously. And it's a utility, you know. I mean, people using it for business, for mobile banking, and things like that. So we really see very stable sort of performance. And as Francis discussed, you know, we've been focusing a lot on site improvements. So we're doing things with the operating system. We're making enhancements to stop congestion, to improve call completion rates, to time to complete calls, all of those kinds of statistics. And this is all the learning that we've been through. So, you know, people might wonder what we're doing, but these are the things that we're doing to improve the output of the sites, and therefore we improve what Orange makes and what we make, and it's, you know, it becomes a real virtuous circle for us. So we're very, very enthused about bringing some of this new finance in, other finance sources to help, you know, just keep that snowball rolling and get to these better economics and get to this better contribution.
So that's it, Frank. In the outlook, we're talking about the potential of 20 million in revenue for next year. And if you just use the site economics, you're reaching 24.8 million just based on the current stats. Of course, we require to have those 1,500 sites, but this is 24 million that we can reach with a projected gross margin of 89%. Our model was showing 78, remember, Jim? And this expected gross contribution is over 70% of this total amount. And that could be used to continue to build, to pay back loans, to bring to the corporate level as cross-charging. So bottom line, it's a fantastic cash generating type business model. Low overhead, a lot of revenue, and extremely performant type business model.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing missing, it looks like, is more sites
Power.
being built. I mean, you know,
Yes.
that's what everybody's waiting on. So,
Yeah.
So I think this comes, like, we're basically coming to the end here. Obviously, you know, we've made some forward-looking statements, so we need to obviously, you know, disclose the fact that there could have been some forward-looking statements in the things we've said, but we're basing it all on real data, actual data from within the company, and projecting forward. So that's simply the exercise that's being done here. In conclusion, Francis, Jim, you know, shareholders, you know, still ask on a daily basis, we still confident on European Investment Bank coming through? You know, do you still believe that we're going to get that money? We know the delays have been endless, but are we reaching the end of that process finally? You know, as the best way you could answer it, I guess.
Jim, give it a shot, because me, it's the same answer, but I
Same
think
story.
that hearing it from a different person is probably good.
Yeah, look, we're still, it's a question of when, not if. We're confident of that. We have a good relationship with the EIB. I won't say great because we're not happy with how much time they've taken, but I mean, they're happy with us. They're happy with the business model. They're happy with what we're achieving and the fact that we're bringing connectivity and development. They wanted comfort on a small issue, which was the licensing. It's taken us some time to get that. We've got regulators involved. We've got, a NAS model, which is not that straightforward. But we feel that we're very close to the finish line, and that will be transformative. We've said that since the beginning. That will be transformative in terms of the capital that it will bring and the site, the build that we can manage under that. Now, at the same time, we've been pursuing, and we've talked about this for some time, we've been pursuing other avenues of finance, both on the debt and equity side. Okay, so not to be fully reliant, but we are talking to local banks now. We had a relationship with one of the banks. We've had it since I started, actually, for 3 years now. We've had a relationship with this bank. There are our commercial bank in country, and before it was, look, these are the projections, and this is, I think, the story today. These were the projections. Now we're showing the real numbers. Now they're seeing the real cash go through the bank account, and they're saying, okay, yeah, we can finance it, much less security, purely a sort of project finance, asset-based finance, and let's get you to the 242 sites. So those kind of debt conversations are going on. We have a conversation with another group that will provide bridge funding for development type funding. They know how long these processes can take, but when they have clarity and a timeline, they're willing to provide us some bridge monies. And thirdly, we're talking to equity providers, as we've been saying for some time. I brought a guy in to help me. He's ex-EBRD, very qualified, done a lot of telecom, done a lot of emerging markets financing. We built a comprehensive model that takes all of these stats. Okay, so this is something we've been assembling over the last, I'd say, 3 months. And these conversations are now advanced to the point where we're expecting to see, we have received some indicative terms. We're expecting more solid term sheets imminently. So, we can't emphasize enough how valuable these kind of statistics are bringing. And the other thing I'll say, and I know he's my boss, but Francis has really been focused on operations recently and identified some of these requirements. And, we have seen tangible and significant increases in the performance of our sites in terms of less congestion, in, the things I talked about, call completion, and that traffic increase helps our relationship, helps our revenue. And now we got a kick from it from the tariffs. So, a long-winded answer, but we think the business model was compelling from the start. It's even more compelling now. And now we've got, as we've also said, the compliance, because we've ticked the boxes on ESG, on governance, on the structure of the business, on taxation, and now licensing. And again, that paves the way for others coming in because all of that work has been done.
And obviously, as you continue to generate data, increase data from more sites going forward, it'll just make your job a lot easier. One has to assume.
Much easier.
Yeah, right. All right.
And Cameroon's self-sufficient, Cameroon's self-sufficient. Yeah. So it takes one headache away too.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I think that's good. That took about just over 30 minutes or so. So thanks again. Just to repeat, if shareholders have questions, concerns, feel free to continue to email us or text message or whichever way you reach out through social media, etc. We'll do our best to answer every and all questions, whatever questions we are able to answer, that is, given the fact that we are a publicly listed company. So thank you on behalf of Francis Letourneau, President, CEO, and Jim Bailey, CFO, coming live from Quebec City. I'm Frank Candido. Today's November 2nd, and we look forward to the next installment of a video like this. Have a great day, guys.